The laughter of 24 alien students echoed through the polished halls of the Galactic Academy of Sciences. They gathered around a holographic display showing the latest news. Humans had been officially banned from all interstellar academic competitions. "Did you see their faces when they got the news?" snickered Kraz, a tall centaurian with gleaming scales and 4 arms. "Those pink-skinned apes actually thought they belonged here among the stars. Their gravity is too strong, their minds too weak," added another student, triggering more laughter. Drell, an Arcturian with analytical eyes that shifted between purple and blue, studied the announcement more carefully. Unlike his classmates, he preferred data to mockery. "Interesting. The ban cites unpredictable aggression patterns and disturbing combat tendencies as the primary reasons." Vila, a slender proximan whose skin glowed with bioluminescent patterns, leaned closer to the display. Her 6-fingered hand traced the words in the air. "But humans have been part of galactic society for almost 30 years. Why ban them now?" "Because they're dangerous," Kraz said firmly. "My father sits on the Centaurian Defense Council. He says humans are the only species that still practices war as an art form." The conversation halted as Professor Zixclor entered the Grand Hall. The respected xenobiologists, 4 eye stalks, surveyed the students with a calm intensity that immediately commanded their attention. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he moved to the center of the room. "I see you've heard the news," the professor said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into standard galactic common. "Earth has officially been classified as a death world, and humans as potentially destabilizing to galactic harmony." A student raised a tentacle. "Professor, what exactly is a death world?" "An excellent question," Zixclor replied. "In simple terms, Earth has environmental conditions so harsh that its native species evolved with unusually high aggression and survival instincts. Most civilized species evolved on worlds with stable climates and few natural predators." Kraz smirked. "So humans are just primitive apes who got lucky with faster-than-light technology." "Oversimplified, but not entirely incorrect," the professor admitted. "Humans advance technologically much faster than their social evolution would suggest possible. This makes them unpredictable." Vela frowned. "But I've met humans who seemed perfectly reasonable. A human doctor saved my cousin when no one else could diagnose her illness." "And that," said Zixclor, "is the paradox that makes humans so fascinating and concerning. They are capable of both remarkable compassion and terrifying violence." The professor tapped a sequence on his datapad, causing the center of the room to dim. A holographic projection appeared, showing the formal Academy seal. "The Council has authorized a special presentation for advanced xenobiology students. Tomorrow, we will be showing classified footage explaining why humans have been deemed too dangerous for unrestricted interaction with galactic society." Excited murmurs spread through the crowd. Classified material was rarely shared with students. "I expect academic professionalism," Zixclor continued, his eye stalks focusing on specific students. "This is not entertainment. This is crucial educational material about a species that represents both opportunity and threat to our unified galactic future." As the professor left, Drell, Vela, and Kraz formed a small group away from the others. "Finally, we'll see what humans are really capable of," Kraz said, his top 2 arms crossed in satisfaction. "My father says there's footage from something humans call the First Contact War that would make your internal organs liquefy with fear." Vela looked troubled. "I don't understand the need for secrecy. If humans are so dangerous, why hide the evidence?" "Politics," Drell replied simply. "Some species have significant trade agreements with Earth. Bad for business if everyone knew the full story." "Well, tomorrow we become the privileged few who know the truth," Kraz said with a smug smile. "And then you'll understand why my people have always said humans don't belong among civilized species." What none of them realized was how completely wrong they all were, not about what humans could do, but about what those actions truly meant. Jack Winters stared out the window of his office at the United Earth Embassy. The Washington, D.C. skyline was beautiful in the morning light, but his mind was elsewhere, specifically 20 light-years away at the Galactic Academy of Sciences. "They're making a mistake," he said, his voice firm but tired. At 42, Jack had the weathered look of someone who had seen too much. A scar ran down the left side of his face, a reminder of the brief but brutal first contact war with the Selenite Collective. Dr. Olivia Rice looked up from her tablet. "The ban is politically motivated, not based on facts. Most species fear what they don't understand." Jack turned to face Olivia. She was brilliant, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, and one of the few people who truly understood what they were up against. 10 years as a space marine, and 5 more as a diplomat, Jack said, shaking his head. "And now I have to convince a bunch of aliens that humans aren't monsters." Olivia placed her tablet on the desk. On its screen was the official notice: Earth representatives required at Galactic Academy for formal review of human status. "It's a chance, Jack. Maybe our only one. The Academy still respects academic discourse, even if the Galactic Council doesn't." Jack picked up a small object from his desk, a medal from the war. "You know what I did to earn this. Things I'm not proud of. Things they'll use against us." "You did what you had to do," Olivia said gently. "That's what they don't understand about humans. Context matters." The door opened, and Lisa Grant from Diplomatic Services entered with a worried expression. "The transport to the Academy leaves in 4 hours. There's a problem. They're planning to show classified war footage to their students tomorrow." Jack's face hardened. Without context. "Of course they are. What footage exactly?" Olivia asked, her mind already working through the implications. "We don't know," Lisa replied. "But you've been classified as consultants rather than official representatives. It's the only way around the human ban." Jack walked to a small cabinet and pulled out an old, worn notebook. "My war journal. Never thought I'd need it again." "You documented everything?" Olivia asked. "Every battle, every decision, every mistake." Jack's voice was heavy with memory. "If they're going to judge us based on footage, they should know the whole story." Olivia stood and walked to the window. Aliens evolved on worlds with fewer threats than Earth. Most developed advanced technology before they developed advanced weapons. We're the opposite. "Makes us dangerous in their eyes," Jack said. "Makes us survivors," Olivia corrected. "We need to help them understand that what looks like aggression to them was necessary adaptation for us." Lisa handed them both small data disks. "Your briefing materials for the journey. The Academy staff has been told you're there to study alien perceptions of humans." Technically true. Jack slipped the disk into his pocket. "Who's our contact at the Academy?" "Professor Zixclor, Xenobiology Department. He's requested you specifically, Jack. He studied the First Contact War extensively." Jack nodded, recognizing the name. "I met him once, after the peace treaty signing. 4 eye stalks, blue exoskeleton." "That's him," Lisa confirmed. "He's assigned 3 student liaisons to work with you, an Arcturian named Drell, a Proximan named Vela, and a Centaurian named Kraz." "Centaurians," Jack muttered. "They were allied with the Selenites during the war." "Which is exactly why we need this to work," Olivia said firmly. "We're not just fighting for academic standing, Jack. If the ban stands, Earth will be increasingly isolated. Trade will suffer. Knowledge exchange will end." Jack closed his notebook and took a deep breath. "All right, let's go convince a bunch of aliens that the scary humans aren't going to eat them." As they prepared to leave, Olivia placed a hand on Jack's arm. "They're afraid of us because they've never had to face what we faced. What they see as our greatest weakness, our capacity for violence, is also our greatest strength. Our unwillingness to surrender, even against impossible odds." Jack nodded, his resolve strengthening. "Then let's show them what humanity really stands for." The grand lecture hall of the Galactic Academy was filled to capacity. Students from 17 different species sat in rising tiers of seats that surrounded a central presentation area. The room hummed with excited whispers. Drell arrived early, securing front row seats for himself, Vela, and Kraz. Statistically, this is the largest attendance for any special lecture this term, he noted, his analytical eyes scanning the crowd. Vela settled beside him, her skin glowing with nervous energy. Everyone wants to see the dangerous humans, she said with a hint of disapproval. Kraz arrived last, his 4 arms carrying various snacks from the academy cafeteria. I wouldn't miss this show for anything, he said, dropping into his seat. My father says this footage has been classified for years. The lights dimmed, and Dean Morthal glided to the center of the hall. The ancient Jovian's gas-filled body pulsed with bioluminescence as he addressed the students. Today's presentation covers material that may be disturbing to some, the dean began, his translated voice echoing through the hall. The Galactic Council has authorized this viewing for educational purposes only. The center of the room flickered as a holographic display activated. The image showed a blue and green planet, Earth. Humans evolved on a Class 9 death world with extreme climate variation, high gravity, and over 40,000 predatory species, the dean explained. Their evolutionary history is marked by constant warfare. The hologram shifted to show primitive humans wielding simple weapons. Their early history is filled with conflict. The dean continued as the images changed rapidly, showing battles from various periods of human history. Even after developing spaceflight, humans continued to practice warfare. Kraz nudged Vela. See, savages. The footage shifted again, now showing sleek spacecraft, human, and selenite vessels engaged in combat near a rocky moon. 8 years ago, humans encountered the Selenite Collective, the dean said. What followed was the first interspecies war in over 500 years. The students watched as human ships, badly damaged and outnumbered, continued fighting against overwhelming Selenite forces. Note how the humans refused to retreat even when tactically appropriate, the dean pointed out. This behavior pattern defies rational strategy. Drell leaned forward, his analytical mind working. Their ships are much smaller than Selenite cruisers, he whispered, yet they're continuing to engage. The footage showed a human space station under attack. Selenite boarding parties breached the outer hull. Then the view switched to interior cameras. The students watched as human defenders, many injured and using improvised weapons, fought the technologically superior Selenites in hand-to-hand combat. A strange silence fell over the lecture hall. The initial amusement had faded from many faces. Observe the human tendency toward what they call heroism, a cultural concept that celebrates self-sacrifice, the dean said as the footage showed a wounded human dragging 2 others to safety while under fire. Vela's glow dimmed with emotion. They're protecting each other, she said softly. The next sequence showed a human Marine, who looked remarkably like Jack Winters, but younger, without the scar, leading a counterattack against the Selenites. Though outnumbered and using inferior technology, the humans fought with coordinated precision that surprised the Selenite forces. What you're witnessing is why humans are classified as dangerous, the dean explained. They possess an irrational persistence in combat situations. They do not surrender when defeat is certain. This unpredictability makes them incompatible with galactic harmony. Kraz's initial smugness had faded. He watched intently as the human Marines executed complex maneuvers under fire. The final footage showed a human ship, badly damaged, accelerating toward a much larger Selenite vessel. They're going to ram it, Drell said in disbelief. The students watched as the human ship crashed into the Selenite vessel at high speed. Both ships erupted in a blinding explosion. As the lights came up, the lecture hall remained silent. Questions will be addressed in tomorrow's session, the dean announced. You are dismissed. As students filed out, Vela noticed that no one was laughing anymore. The Academy's landing bay hummed with nervous energy as the human shuttle docked. Students and faculty gathered at a safe distance, whispering among themselves. I can't believe they actually allowed humans on campus. one student muttered. Jack and Olivia stepped off the shuttle ramp and immediately felt the weight of 100 alien eyes. Jack wore a simple blue diplomatic uniform with no weapons, while Olivia carried only a data tablet. "They're staring at us like we might explode," Jack whispered. "Just smile and try to look harmless," Olivia replied through her own smile. Professor Zixclor approached them, his 4 eye stalks moving independently to keep watch in all directions. "Welcome to the Galactic Academy." Professor Zixclor led Jack and Olivia into a private viewing room. The 3 alien students followed behind, maintaining a cautious distance from the humans. "This is the complete presentation shown yesterday," the professor explained, activating a holographic display. "I should warn you, it may be difficult to watch." The footage began playing. Jack's jaw tightened as he watched scenes from the First Contact War, edited to show only human aggression without the selenite attacks that had triggered the responses. "This is propaganda," Jack said quietly. They removed all context. Olivia studied the footage carefully. "The editing is subtle but effective. It makes humans look like the aggressors." "Because you are," Kraz interjected. "Your ships attacked first in the Proxima system." Jack turned to face the Centaurian student. "After the selenites destroyed 3 unarmed human research stations. Did the footage show that?" Kraz hesitated, looking to Professor Zixclor for confirmation. "It did not," the professor admitted. "The Galactic Council approved only certain segments for educational purposes." Olivia stepped forward. "May I address your students, Professor? I think a proper explanation is needed." The professor nodded, and Olivia turned to face the 3 alien students. "Humans evolved on a planet that tried to kill us every day," she began. "Predators, diseases, natural disasters. Earth shaped us to be survivors. What looks like aggression to you is actually defensive adaptation." "Explain the ramming tactic," Drell said, his analytical eyes fixed on Jack. "The human ship that sacrificed itself to destroy the selenite vessel. That was not defensive. It was sacrifice," Jack replied. "The selenite ship was targeting a civilian transport carrying 3,000 human refugees. The military vessel had lost its weapons. Ramming was the only option left to save those civilians." Vela's skin flickered with surprise. The presentation didn't mention civilians. "Of course not," Olivia said gently. "Because that would complicate the narrative they want to present." Jack walked closer to the hologram, pointing to a scene showing human Marines fighting with unexpected tactics. "Here, we were outnumbered 5 to 1. We had to adapt or die. Humans call it thinking outside the box, finding solutions others wouldn't consider. It seems the logical," Drell observed. "High-risk strategies with low probability of success." "But they did succeed," Olivia pointed out. "Humans have a saying, necessity is the mother of invention. When faced with impossible odds, we become most creative." Professor Zixclor manipulated the controls, advancing to another scene. This moment especially disturbed many students, a human soldier continuing to fight despite severe injuries. Jack nodded grimly. "That's Alan Davis. He was protecting the medical bay where 50 wounded were being treated, both human and selenite casualties." "You treated enemy wounded?" Vela asked, her glow brightening with interest. "Standard human protocol," Jack confirmed. "We don't abandon anyone who needs medical help, even enemies." Kraz made a dismissive gesture. "Yet you still killed many selenites." "In combat, yes," Jack said firmly. "But never the wounded, never prisoners, never civilians." "There's a difference." Olivia accessed her tablet and projected her own data alongside the Academy footage. "This is what the edited footage doesn't show you. Human aid ships arriving after the war to help rebuild selenite colonies. Human doctors treating selenite civilians. Human diplomats working for peace." The 3 students watched in silence, comparing the 2 versions of events. "Why would the Council hide this?" Vela finally asked. "Fear," Professor Zixclor said simply. "Humans are unpredictable by galactic standards. Some species find that threatening." "We're not monsters," Jack said, looking each student in the eyes. "We're survivors who learned that cooperation ultimately works better than conflict. But we'll never surrender when innocent lives are at stake." Drell tilted his head, processing this new information. Fascinating. The very traits that make humans dangerous in war, adaptability, persistence, creativity, could be valuable in other contexts. Exactly. Olivia smiled. The question isn't whether humans are dangerous. It's whether that danger is directed at threats or at friends. Night fell over the Galactic Academy. Most students had retired to their quarters, but in Professor Zixclor's private laboratory, 5 figures huddled around a secure data terminal. "What I'm about to show you is classified beyond anything you've seen," the professor said, his voice low. "I could lose my position for this, but I believe truth matters more than politics." Jack, Olivia, Drell, and Vela watched intently. Kraz had reluctantly joined them, his curiosity overcoming his prejudice. This footage was deemed too sensitive for public viewing, Zixclor explained as he inserted a small data crystal into the terminal. "It contradicts the official narrative about humans." The holographic display flickered to life, showing a different view of the First Contact War. The first scene showed human medics rushing into a burning Selenite ship, pulling injured aliens to safety despite the danger. "These humans risked their lives for enemy combatants," Zixclor noted. The footage shifted to a human colony after a Selenite attack. Among the rubble, human survivors were caring for Selenite children who had been left behind during the retreat. 37 Selenite orphans were adopted by human families after the war, Olivia explained softly. "Many still live on Earth today." Vela's skin glowed with emotion. "You took in enemy children." "They were just kids who lost their parents," Jack said simply. "No child deserves to suffer for adult conflicts." The next scene showed Jack himself, younger and unwounded, standing unarmed between his soldiers and Selenite civilians during a tense standoff. "This was on Proxima Colony," Jack explained. "We had retaken the settlement, but some Selenite civilians couldn't evacuate. My orders were to secure the area, but—" "You protected them," Drell observed, his analytical eyes fixed on the footage. "I couldn't let them be harmed," Jack said. "It wasn't their fight." They watched as the younger Jack ordered his Marines to provide food and medical care to the Selenite civilians, even as Selenite military forces fired on their position. "You disobeyed orders," Kraz said, but his tone held more curiosity than accusation. "I followed a higher order," Jack replied. "Protect the innocent. It's a core human value." The final piece of footage showed the unprovoked Selenite attack that had started the war. Massive warships opening fire on unarmed human research stations. The Council excluded this from the official record, Professor Zixclor said. It didn't fit their narrative that humans were the aggressors. Vela turned to Kraz. "Your people said the humans attacked first." Kraz's scales darkened with discomfort. "That's what we were told. My father." "Your father believed what the Selenites told him," Jack said gently. "War is filled with misinformation." Olivia touched the terminal, freezing on an image of humans and Selenites working together during the peace negotiations. This is what the Council fears most, not human violence, but human influence. We form connections across species boundaries. We question authority when it contradicts our moral code. Ideas can be more dangerous than weapons, Drell noted thoughtfully. Exactly, Professor Zixclor confirmed. Humans prioritize individual conscience over collective harmony. For species that value conformity above all, that's terrifying. A loud noise at the door made them all turn. Security drones hovered in the doorway, their scanning beams sweeping the room. "Professor Zixclor," a mechanical voice announced. "You are accessing restricted materials with unauthorized personnel. This violation has been reported." Kraz stepped forward suddenly. "I reported it before we came here." His 4 hands trembled slightly. "I thought humans were a threat that needed to be contained. And now?" Jack asked quietly. "Now I'm uncertain," Kraz admitted. The footage contradicts everything I've been taught. The security drones advanced into the room. All present must report to the dean's office immediately. The human visitor's status is revoked. They will be escorted off Academy grounds. This isn't over, Jack said firmly. The truth matters too much. Vela stepped beside Jack and Olivia. We'll stand with you. The Academy must hear the full story. Even Kraz, after a moment's hesitation, nodded his agreement. My people value honor. There is no honor in lies. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Galactic Academy buzzed with voices. News of the late-night discovery had spread quickly. Hundreds of students and faculty members filled the tiered seats, eager to witness the emergency session. Dean Morthel floated at the center of the room, his gas-filled body pulsing with angry colors. Before him stood Jack and Olivia, flanked by security drones. To one side, Professor Zixclor waited with the 3 student liaisons. This assembly will come to order, the dean announced, his voice echoing through the hall. We are here to address a serious breach of security protocols. The room quieted immediately. Humans were granted limited consultant status at our academy. They have violated that trust by accessing classified materials and spreading dangerous misinformation. Jack stepped forward. With respect, Dean Morthal, the only misinformation here is what your students were shown in your approved presentation. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The dean's colors darkened further. You will be silent, human. Your status has been revoked. You will be escorted from Academy grounds immediately. Olivia spoke up. Before we go, perhaps you should explain why your educational footage removed all context that would show humans in a positive light. The material was edited for clarity and educational value. The dean replied stiffly. To everyone's surprise, Drell stepped forward. The normally reserved Arcturian stood beside Jack and Olivia. I request permission to address the assembly, Drell said formally. The dean hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. No student had ever been denied the right to speak at a formal assembly. I have analyzed both the approved footage and the classified material, Drell began, his analytical eyes shifting between blue and purple. The approved footage showed humans using unexpected tactics and displaying what appeared to be aggression. This is factually accurate, but incomplete. Drell gestured to a data pad he carried. Statistical analysis reveals that 78.3% of human combat actions during the First Contact War were defensive in nature. The remaining offensive actions were primarily directed at military targets, with a remarkable 94.2% effort to minimize civilian casualties. The assembly hall was completely silent now. Drell continued, his precise voice carrying throughout the space. When compared to historical conflicts involving other species, humans show an unusual pattern. They fight fiercely but show mercy often. This contradicts the narrative that humans are simply dangerous predators. Vela moved to stand beside Drell, her skin glowing brightly. I've studied human emotional responses, she added. Their capacity for empathy extends beyond their own species. During the war, human medics treated Selenite wounded. Human families adopted Selenite orphans. These facts were excluded from the approved presentation. The dean's colors shifted uncomfortably. These are exceptions. No, Vela interrupted firmly. These are patterns of behavior. Humans value what they call compassion as highly as they value survival. Whispers spread through the crowd as students discussed this new perspective. Many accessed their own data pads, searching for additional information about humans. The dean pulsed with frustration. This discussion is irrelevant. The humans violated. I have something to add, Kraz said suddenly, stepping forward. The Centaurian student looked uncomfortable but determined. You may speak, the dean permitted, surprised by Kraz's intervention. Kraz activated a small projector from his upper right hand. A new hologram appeared, footage none of them had seen before. This comes from my family's private archives, Kraz explained. My father was a military observer during the war. The footage showed a human settlement under Selenite attack. As buildings burned, a small group of human defenders stood their ground, protecting a group of civilians, both human and Centaurian. My uncle was among those Centaurians, Kraz said, his voice tight with emotion. The humans could have retreated, saving only themselves. Instead, they stayed to protect our people, who weren't even their allies. He looked directly at the dean. My family never shared this footage because it contradicted the official narrative. I was taught to fear humans, but now I question whether that fear is justified. The assembly erupted in excited conversation. Students called out questions. Faculty members debated among themselves. Jack watched in amazement as the tide of opinion visibly shifted in the Great Hall. 6 months later, Jack stood at the window of his office at the Earth Embassy, looking out at the Washington, D.C. skyline. This time, Olivia stood beside him, both watching as a shuttle descended toward the landing pad. "I never thought I'd see this day," Jack said quietly. "The first official delegation of Academy students visiting Earth," Olivia replied with a smile. "You made it happen, Jack." "We all did," he corrected her. "Especially those 3 students who stood up for the truth." The shuttle touched down, its doors opening to reveal Drell, Vela, and Kraz, along with 5 other alien students and Professor Zixclor. They looked around with obvious curiosity at the blue sky and green trees of Earth. "The vote was closer than I would have liked," Jack said. 52% of the Galactic Council in favor of lifting the human ban, 48% against. "But it passed," Olivia reminded him. "That's what matters." The Academy's formal protest made the difference. They walked out to greet the visitors. Vela's skin glowed brightly when she saw them, while Drell gave a precise Arcturian bow. Even Kraz offered a gesture of respect with all 4 arms. "Welcome to Earth," Jack said warmly. "We're honored to have you here." "The honor is ours," Professor Zixclor replied. The Academy's new Human Studies Department has a waiting list of over 300 students. "And you're its first official study group," Olivia added. "Harvard Exobiology campus is ready for your visit tomorrow." As they walked toward the embassy building, Vela matched pace with Jack. "The footage you sent last month has been viewed by millions across the galaxy," she said. "The rescue operation on Proxima IV was inspiring." Jack nodded solemnly. "A natural disaster isn't so different from a war. You fight to save lives, not take them." The footage she referred to had shown human emergency teams racing to save an alien mining colony after a devastating earthquake. Human ships had arrived first, their crews trained for rescue operations on dangerous worlds. They had saved thousands of lives at the cost of several of their own. "My people were wrong about humans," Kraz admitted as they entered the embassy. "We saw your capacity for violence and missed your capacity for sacrifice. Both come from the same place," Olivia explained. "Our evolutionary history as a prey species that became predators, then something more. We fight hardest for others, not just ourselves." In the main conference room, a celebration had been prepared. Alien and human diplomats mingled, sharing food and conversation. On large screens around the room, footage played, not of war this time, but of cooperation. Humans and aliens working together on scientific projects, cultural exchanges, and joint missions. Drell approached Jack, his analytical eyes thoughtful. "I've calculated that the probability of long-term human-alien cooperation has increased by 64.8% since the ban was lifted." Jack smiled. "Sometimes all it takes is seeing the complete picture, not just parts of it." Professor Zixclor joined them, his eye stalks moving with excitement. "The Council has approved my proposal for joint military training exercises, not for war, for disaster response, rescue operations, and peacekeeping. The things humans do best," Olivia noted. Later that evening, as the visitors toured the embassy gardens, Jack found Kraz standing alone, looking up at the stars. "Having second thoughts?" Jack asked gently. "No," Kraz replied. "I was thinking about how quickly opinions can change. 6 months ago, students laughed at humans, Now they compete for spots in human studies programs. What changed their minds? Jack wondered. The footage, Kraz said simply. Not just the war footage, but everything that came after. Seeing humans as you truly are, dangerous when threatened, yes, but also brave, compassionate, and willing to die for others, even aliens. He turned all four arms outward in a Centaurian gesture of respect. My father once told me to fear humans because you never surrender. Now I understand that's your greatest strength. You never surrender when lives are at stake, not even the lives of those different from you. Jack looked up at the stars alongside Kraz. That's humanity at its best. We're still learning, still growing. Having friends from other worlds will help us become better than we were. Above them, more shuttles descended toward Earth, the first of many in a new era of cooperation between humans and the wider galaxy.